guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week's video is going to be the end of year book tag that Destiny Sidwell, I believe, started. And I have seen quite a few book girlies do this and I'm so excited because I love talking about books. So let's jump on into it. So there's a bunch of questions and I do have multiple answers per question because I have a reading problem. So let's jump right in. So the first question is most disappointing book of the year. So I actually just recently unhauled this book, so you would have seen it in my book unhaul video, but that is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of it. It just wasn't enemies to lovers enough for me, and I talk about it in depth in my reading vlog that I did for that, but I just was not a big fan. A lot of people loved it, but it just was not for me. And then another one was Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. A lot of people also really liked that book. I think I rated it like a 2 to 2.5 star. I just didn't really like the writing. I thought it was very slow. And I didn't really like the magic system all that much. Like, I liked the first part of the book, and then after that, everything kind of just went downhill. We have Underdog Book of the Year. That would be Baggage Claim by Juliana Smith. I recently read this book for my holiday book reading video, and I fell in love with this author. I love her writing. It's so fast-paced. She uses a lot of humor just in general, and she references like Harry Potter and Star Wars and like all these nerdy things, and her books are pretty short, but the characters, like, they're just great. And I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was so good, but I don't really hear that much about it. I think I found it from someone's YouTube video that was talking about holiday reads, and I just picked it up on a whim, and I'm so happy I did because then I kind of fell into a rabbit hole with her books. We have a book that was overhyped, and I'm sorry to say, but that is Emily Henry's Happy Place. I wasn't the biggest fan of this book. I did enjoy it. I gave it like a 3.5 star. I annotated it quite heavily, and there are definitely some quotes in here that I did enjoy, but I just feel like I didn't connect with any of the characters, and overall just didn't have as good of a time as I normally do with her books. I am a Emily Henry stan. I love her books, but this just was not the book for me. All right, so next up we have favorite book couple of the year. So this is one where I have multiple answers for. So the first one is Throne of Glass, the whole series. I'm not going to go into specific couples because I don't want to spoil anything, but every single couple in this series was a favorite couple for me. I don't think there's a single couple in this book that I like, or in this series, that I didn't root for, don't like, absolutely love. We need to talk about Knox and Naomi because I love them and ate them up. Like, quite literally, Knox and Naomi and Lucian and Sloane. Then we have, of course, Xaden and Violet from Fourth Wing. I love them. I absolutely ate up this book. I don't even have words. I read this book twice this year, and I want to read it again. So I just absolutely loved them, adored them. No words, truly. Then we have Brianna and Jacob from Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. And I loved these two. Like, quite frankly, if I had to pick an absolute top favorite, I think it would be maybe them. Like, I'm not going to put that out there as a definite, but it's a possibility because I absolutely love these two. The anxiety rep and how they handle each other and work through things together truly was astonishing, and I absolutely love them together, and I thought that they were like literally written for each other. I actually went to an Abby Jimenez meet and greet here in Connecticut, and I told her, I said, you literally wrote these characters for each other. Like, they're quite literally perfect for each other. And she had told me that that's what she kind of did. She had one character kind of all mapped out, and then she wrote the other character to kind of fit that character, and I just thought that was really cool. So absolutely loved those two characters. Next up, we have Bryce and Hunt from Crescent City. I love them. They're Sarah J. Maas characters. I mean, honestly, who's not gonna love them? So definitely Bryson Hunt. I cannot wait to read the next book in the series that's coming out next year, but absolutely adored those two. Another favorite book couple is Draco and Hermione fanfiction edition. In fanfiction, I loved Hermione. I have no words for how much I loved Hermione, so I needed to put them in here. Love them in fanfiction, for sure. And then my last one I want to talk about, all couples, non-couples, relationships that happen and develop, anything that has to do with Zodiac Academy, truly. Any relationships that come up between like the main characters, and love it. There's too many to really name without giving things away, but just know if they're like within the main 6 characters and they're together, I love them. Even some of the side characters, love them. So yes, definitely the couples in here. Next up, we have favorite main character of the year. So I again have a few. So my first one is Violet Sorrengail. I think that Violet is so strong, and she gets thrown into a really tough situation, but she honestly makes the best of it and doesn't let things get her down. And I really admire that about this character. And I just think that she takes the situation, makes the best of it, and like moves on with her life and does everything she can to the best of her ability. And she never gives up, which I love that about her. And I just love her sass. I love her. I really do. She's definitely one of my top main characters for the year. And we have Tori and Darcy. These are 2 like main characters. Again, they're 2 badass female main characters who take no crap from anybody. They're again thrown into a very tough, crappy situation. They make the best of it, and they literally do everything they can to better themselves and to try to like excel the situation that they're in. And I absolutely adored them. I think that, like, again, they're just very strong, and they're learning everything they can to better themselves. And I think that they are just truly great characters. And I just love the way that they are written together as sisters and apart as individuals. Honestly, just amazing. And then again, we have Brianna and Jake from yours truly. I kind of touched on it before, but I genuinely think just the way that these characters were written with the anxiety rep in the book, and how, you know, Brianna kind of understands what Jake needs, and Jake just can kind of be himself with Brianna, and she'll know what he needs and he'll know what she needs, and the 2 of them together are just great. But even separate, they're just really great characters in general. I think I related to Jake so much because of his anxiety, and you get a lot of like his inner monologue in this book, and it's truly something. I talked about this in the reading vlog where I read this. It's honestly kind of crazy to read the book when you're in his point of view and you've dealt with like anxiety. I had very bad OCD, germaphobe issues a couple years back. I don't know, even remember how long ago it was. It was probably like 5-6 years ago, honestly, at this point. But a lot of the things that he's going through in his mind were a lot of the same like repetitions that I had when I was dealing with it. And to see how Brianna helped him through those situations and tried to like make the situations better and anticipate his needs was truly something that I absolutely loved. I thought that it was very well written, and I thought the anxiety was also very well written, and I just absolutely adored these 2 characters very, very much. So next up we have books that surprised you. So I don't have the first book, but Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I had never read a V.E. Schwab book before. I fell in love with the writing. I fell in love with characters, not as people, but as an idea, and I liked just the storyline in general. I had never read a story about kind of superheroes and supervillains, and I really liked the way that V.E. Schwab wrote, you know, Victor and Eli, and I just thought that the way the book was written and the different timelines and how they all kind of meshed together and all the different characters and learning about the extraordinaries and how they were created, and then how Vic and Eli ended up trying to create EOs, and how it went from theoretical to experimental, and it was just so good. love this duology so much. Definitely recommend. I had such a fun time, and again, I really just loved her writing in general. And then we have Baggage Claim Again by Juliana Smith. I honestly just was not expecting to like that book as much as I did. I just genuinely thought I was picking up just like a fun little holiday romance, and it is, but it is just so well written, and I am obsessed. So definitely loved that. And then we have the Zodiac Academy series. I picked this up because my friend Taylor, she read it and she was like, oh, you like really need to read it. It's so good. I didn't believe her. Honestly, the first half of the first book, I was like, this is like Hot Mess Express. I don't know. By the end of the first book, I was obsessed. I literally read the first 4 books nonstop. Boop, 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 boop. Loved them. I needed a break after book 4 because if you know, you know. The end of book 4 is traumatic, but I still have continued the series. I am on book 7. I just finished book 6 last month. So I'm on book 7 and I am going to be continuing the series. I love the series. I love these characters, and I just, again, wasn't expecting to love it as much as I do, but I think about this series quite literally every day of my life. And last is Hermione fanfiction. Quite honestly, I did not think that I was going to like Hermione fanfiction at all. I was like, who really cares about Draco and Hermione and just all these things? I just honestly never cared, but I heard a few people talking about it and I decided to like jump on the bandwagon, and oh my god, you guys, it's so good. Just the way that a lot of these authors write, the fan fiction authors, is so good. Because they know the world. I mean, they're also fans of Harry Potter, so they know the world, they know all the characters as much as I do, if not more. And I just had, all 3 that I read so far, I absolutely loved and had the best time. And just Hermione in general honestly shocked me. All right, so we have new favorite author that you discovered this year. So the first is Abby Jimenez. I love her writing, absolutely adore her writing. There's just, honestly, I have nothing bad to say about it. Quick, fast-paced. It's honestly deeper than just a romance. There's so much more that goes into it, and I've loved the books that I read by her. And then Juliana Smith, again, she wrote Baggage Claim and Per My Last Email, which I loved. So I just have fallen in love with her writing. And Carolyn Peckham and Susan Valenti. Honestly, fell in love with their writing this year as well. It's fast-paced, fun, just so easy to understand, and it's just such a great time. And then my happiest read of the year, Zodiac Academy. I'm repeating a lot of books, but honestly, the books that I loved, and I think about them literally all the time. So again, this was just such a good series. I just had such a good time. So the most frustrating book of this year, I actually sent to the book barn, and that would be The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I read this earlier this year, and oh my gosh, I struggled with that book. I could not for the life of me. It took me so long to get through it. I ended up like listening to it on audio because I just could not read it. It was just drawn out. There were some parts that I really loved, but for the most part, I just could not get through it. And it really stinks because so many people honestly love that series, but I just couldn't do it. So the best adaptation from book to TV series, I didn't read any books that were turned into TV series or anything like that. I've seen movies that were books, and I've read books that were TV series, but I've never watched the same. You know what I'm saying? So, but my favorite TV show this year that is also books would be The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I have not read the books yet. I do plan on reading them, but I did really enjoy the show. So the longest book that I read this year is a fan fiction. It is Manacled by Sen-Lin Yu. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Shortest book of the year is called Lord Sorcier. It's actually a novella that's in the back of Half a Soul, which loved that book too, but that's the shortest book I read. So favorite book covers of the year. So my favorite is, of course, the Crescent City books. These covers, you guys, I'm just obsessed with them. They are literally stunning. Like I have no words. These are literally my favorite book covers of the entire year. Some other book covers that I do really like are Juliana Smith's book covers. I think they're the cutest things ever. So I will pop up a couple of her books here, but I really did enjoy a lot of her book covers. As soon as I found them, I like went out and bought physical copies. because I needed them in my library. But if I was to pick favorites, definitely these two. So for books you haven't stopped thinking about this year, Zodiac Academy. I think about Zodiac Academy literally every single day of my life. I love Zodiac Academy so much. It is probably going to be one of my favorite series of all time, and I genuinely will reread them, even though they're like a bajillion pages long. I don't care. I love them and I love the characters. Cringiest book you read, City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. If you know, you know. I don't really need to go into further detail on that, but that would say that's probably the cringiest book that I've read this year. Unpopular books that I loved. So I have a few. Honestly, a lot of people were not a fan of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I loved this book. I rated it 5 stars. I had literally the best time from beginning to end. And this is a pretty chunky book. I loved it. But again, a lot of people were not big fans and did not like it. Also, I haven't talked about this yet, but my dad, for an early Christmas present, he got me a signed version. Hello? Literally my prized possession. Truly. I'm obsessed with this book. But anyway, so definitely Iron Flame. Then we have Lightlark by Alex Astor. A lot of people really didn't like this book. Again, I had a really, really fun time. I thought that it was pretty enjoyable. It wasn't like a favorite book of the year, but it was definitely a book that I had a lot of fun reading. And Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. Again, a lot of people were really disappointed by this book. They didn't really enjoy where it went, how it got there. But I loved it. This is literally one of my favorite books of the year. I rated it 6 stars. Absolutely ate it up. Had such a fun time. But again, a lot of people were not very big fans of this book for how it ended the trilogy, but I really enjoyed it. So what were the highest rated books and the lowest rated book on your Goodreads, and do you agree with the rating? So my highest rated book was Manacled. The rating is 4.67 and I 100% agree with that rating. I rated it 5 stars. I love that book. So good. There's so much depth into it. And I'm just obsessed with it. It was just really well written, really well developed. And for being such a long book, you don't get bored because there's just so much happening. I very much agree with that rating. And for my lowest rated book, we have A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. This book got a 3.39 and I'd say I agree with it. I rated it a 3.5, so I think that's pretty on par. A star rating of 3.5 isn't bad. It's just not like game changer or anything, but I definitely still had a really fun time with this book. I really enjoyed it and I really liked the writing, and I definitely plan on picking up more books by then. So I definitely agree with the rating, but I don't think it's a bad rating at all. So the next one is favorite quotes of the year. So my books that I probably highlighted all my favorite quotes is in Zodiac Academy, Fourth Wing, and Iron Flame. And I read all of those books digitally, but I don't own the digital copies. They were like on loan from KU and stuff like that. So I don't know if I can really access my highlights, which is kind of upsetting, to be honest. So I don't really have any off the top of my head that I know, honestly, which is kind of sad, but I guess it is what it is. Just know that I had some really great quotes from probably Zodiac Academy and Fourth Wing. Honestly, I don't know. So for a book with the most unique concept, I would say Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I, again, just thoroughly enjoyed that book. You're following Victor and Eli, who are in college. They have to work on a thesis. Eli's working on a thesis about extraordinaries, and then Victor's working on a thesis about how like your fight or flight system, like response system works, and they end up kind of working together and then creating experiments about extraordinaries and how they're created. And it goes from like theoretical to experimental, and they like start experimenting on themselves and learning all about the world of extraordinaries, and it just kind of goes from there, and it is such a fun time. I absolutely love those books. Vicious and Vengeful, again, by V.E. Schwab. So good. A book that I would reread, I have a few. They're pretty much books that I've already talked about, so I'm just going to go over them very quickly. So we have the Crescent City books, the first one and the second one. I am already going to be rereading these. I'm actually starting this reread very soon. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I have already reread Fourth Wing once. I plan on rereading it again, and I definitely want to reread Iron Flame as well. I would 100% reread the Zodiac Academy series. As I mentioned before, it is such a fun time, and I absolutely love the characters and the writing. and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Again, I just love the writing and love the characters. I would absolutely love to reread this book next year. And finally, I have Manacled by Senlin Yu. I 100% want to reread that, even though it's a super long book. I feel like there's so much that I missed just because it's such a thick book and I'm, going through it, pretty rapidly. So I definitely want to reread that just to kind of delve back into the world and just kind of explore it at a deeper capacity than the first time of reading something. That's why I like rereading books, because I feel like you get to delve a little bit more into the world because you like understand things a little bit better. All right, so we are now to the final two questions: reading goal reflection and 2024 reading goal. So my reading goal was 50 books. I have read 100 books this year, so I far exceeded my goal. And I'm happy that I did, but I genuinely think I would be happy if I just read 50 books or if I read less than that. To me, as much as I do get that reading is about a number, reading to me is just such a fun thing, and I genuinely just love reading so much that, especially a good example of this is last month. I honestly barely read a lot of books because I read very large books. Like I read a bunch of fan fiction, which were like between 500 and 1,000 pages. And so I didn't read like a large quantity of books, but the quality was there. So to me, that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is quality versus quantity. I would rather read 5 amazing books than 30 books that I just wasn't a fan of and didn't enjoy. As far as my 2024 reading goal, I honestly think I'm going to change it from 50 to 75. I don't want to go all the way to 100 because I don't want to like set myself up for a failure. Not that I think it's a failure. I just, as much as I say I'm not a numbers person, like I will stress myself out if I like am not hitting goals. As much as I try not to pay attention to like my Goodreads goal, I do end up paying attention to it. I am human. And as much as I do think I will probably hit about 100 books again next year, I don't know what the world has in store for me next year, so I'm just gonna go with 75. I'm kind of upping it a little bit from this year, but not too much. After 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading-wise? So again, I think genuinely I am going to be prioritizing reading quality versus quantity. I want to read just a bunch of really good books and try not to think about the Goodreads number at the end of the year. And I think I want to branch out a little bit. This year was kind of fun. I didn't really branch out necessarily. I've been reading a lot of fantasy and romance, which is what I always read, but I think that eventually I would like to branch out. I do really want to get into sci-fi. I would love to read some Pierce Brown next year. I want to read some new authors that I've been very intimidated by. I would love to get into some Brandon Sanderson finally, and maybe some high adult fantasy, because I read a lot of YA fantasy. I genuinely think that I would really love to get into some high or some adult fantasy just to kind of broaden my horizons a bit. I would really love to read like the Game of Thrones books and things like that, but I think I get a little intimidated by them because they're so thick and sometimes the words are very small. And it's the same thing with Brandon Sanderson. Like I really want to read Stormlight Archives, but I just get so scared because it's such a long book. So I think I might just read them on my Kindle in order to like kind of fake myself out there. All right, guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I know I talked about a lot of the same books, but I just had such a great reading year with a lot of these books in these series, and had such a fun time with them. So I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed my reading year this year, and I cannot wait to start next year. And feel free to answer some of the questions down below. I would definitely be interested to hear you guys' answers and kind of pick out maybe some new reads for next year based off your answers. That would be a lot of fun. So like I said, just leave those down below. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys all in my next video.